Hey, welcome to this week's Thrive in 5. I want to talk about something that's really important, and I see this more consistently in my coaching on a regular basis, and that is that sort of desire that people have to get to a place where they're good at something such that they can do it constantly. And it's really, to me, the secret of mastery. And what I want to talk to you a little bit about today is how to get to mastery. And I think it's a secret that many people miss, and yet it's so completely obvious. And hats off to Steve Chandler, who has really been someone who helped me understand this in a good way. So if you think about the current state you're in, and the current state that you find yourself in as it relates to a thing you're trying to be good at, and it's hard for you, it's frustrating, and you might find it a struggle, you just can't seem to do it well. And in your mind, you imagine that ability to do it. You imagine that place of having expertise, of having artistry, that ability to do it extremely well, of having mastery, of having competence, and the gap between those is pretty significant. And so really the important piece, and yet the simplistic way to get there, seems to elude many of us. And it eludes many of us as it relates to relationships, as it relates to success in business, as it relates to even things like marketing and selling, is you can't just be here and get here without driving through this gap and doing things in the gap to get you there. So what is it that it takes to get there? Well, I want you to imagine and think about a 10-year-old girl who is learning to play the piano. And in her activity, she sits at her piano and she plays it, and it's kind of hard and it's frustrating, and yet in her mind's eye she wants to be a concert pianist. And if you asked her what's it going to take to become a concert pianist, what is she likely to tell you? It's this: it's practice. Practice is the secret of getting from your current state to an optimal state. It's the secret from getting from hard, frustrating, and struggle to expertise, mastery, and competence. That's the way you get there. So the question is, if you want this, what are you practicing in order to get there? It's critical that you practice. You cannot become a concert pianist without practice. So practice is the secret. You cannot be great at selling without practice. You cannot be good at marketing without actually practicing it. Any of the kind of things you want to do in your life take practice. But practice demands and requires routine. I actually have a degree in music. I studied voice. I studied opera in university. And one of the things that was required of me as a voice major in school was that every day I had to sing. I actually had to sing every day. And in our university music area, there was these tiny little rooms. They were just like closets, and they were somewhat soundproofed, and you would open the door in your practice room that you had routinely was on loan to you for your school year, and you would actually go in there and you'd sing for an hour, and you had to sing, and you had to do your scales, and you had to do different kinds of things when you were practicing, and it was a daily thing. There was routine to it, and within the routine there was activities that needed to be done. So practice demands routine within that practice. But ultimately, to make this truly work, you have to schedule it into your calendar. And so practice needs to be scheduled. And so in order to get to mastery, the only way you're going to get there in whatever you want to be competent in, you have to practice it. So the question I ask you is, what are you practicing? If you're achieving something, it's quite likely along the way you've spent time practicing it. So, a great thing comes up from a book by Steven Pressfield. And Steven Pressfield wrote a wonderful book called The War of Art. And in The War of Art, he talks about this sense that great writers get results when they practice writing. So he talks about the muse, and the muse being that thing that comes and gives you inspiration to write. And his point is the muse only shows up when your butt's in the seat writing. And your optimal success, your optimal state, and your expertise and mastery and artistry will only show up when you practice. What are you practicing? That's the only way you'll get there. We'll talk to you soon.